Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging our toes into something a bit different, a segment we call Conspiracy Light. It's where we explore some of the, well, stranger, maybe sillier ideas floating around out there, just for fun, really.
Exactly. Nothing too heavy today. And our topic is, well, it's a classic example of something that makes you go, and maybe laugh a bit.
Right. And today's particular head-scratcher is the idea that birds aren't real.
Yeah.
You heard that right. Those little feathered things, pigeons especially, are supposedly government surveillance drones.
It does sound completely out there, doesn't it? But, this theory has actually picked up a surprising amount of steam online.
So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack that. What is this birds aren't real thing exactly? Where did it even come from?
And we'll look at the quote-unquote evidence, plus maybe touch on some interesting language that pops up around it and, why people seem to find this stuff appealing.
Okay, let's dive in. What's the core idea? What does birds aren't real actually claim?
Okay, so the main belief, according to the theory's proponents, is that the U.S. government did something pretty drastic.
Oh, yeah.
Between, 1959 and 1971, they supposedly got rid of all the real birds, wiped them out.
All of them. And replaced them.
Replaced them, yes, with robotic replicas, bird drones, essentially.
Wow. Okay, robotic birds. What are they supposed to, do? What features do these alleged robot birds have?
Well, it's the full spy kit, apparently.
Yeah.
Tiny cameras for eyes, little microphones hidden away.
Standard spy stuff, I guess.
Yeah, but here's where it gets really creative. Even the bird droppings are supposedly part of the surveillance.
Hey, hang on. The poo. You're saying bird poo is data collection.
That's the claim. Some versions say it's like a liquid tracking device. Others that it's how they transmit the data they collect. File uploads, basically.
That's something else. So why birds? Why disguise the tech like that?
Well, think about it. Birds are everywhere, right? In cities, in the countryside, they blend in. Nobody really pays close attention to a random pigeon. It's kind of the perfect cover.
I guess that makes a weird kind of sense. And what about, you see birds sitting on power lines all the time? What's the theory's explanation for that?
Ah, yes. Well, according to the theory, they're not just resting up there.
Yeah.
They're recharging their batteries, plugging into the grid.
Recharging. Okay, that's pretty funny. And wasn't there something about the word drone itself being involved?
Yeah, that's another little piece they sometimes add. The theory includes this false claim that the word drone originally meant these robotic birds.
But that's not actually true.
No, not historically accurate at all. It's just, another detail to try and make the whole story seem a bit more grounded, I suppose.
Right, okay. So that's the wild story. But where on earth did something like this come from? It feels too bizarre to just appear.
That's a really good question. And the origin story is actually quite key to understanding the whole thing. It didn't start as a genuine conspiracy theory.
Oh. So it wasn't serious at first?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It began as satire, a joke.
Satire?
Well, there's this guy, Peter McIndoe. Back in 2017, he was at a women's march, actually, and saw lots of different signs and counter-protesters.
Okay.
And sort of on the spur of the moment, he apparently just wrote, "Birds aren't real," on a poster and held it up.
Just like that. What was he trying to do?
His initial idea, he said, was basically to poke fun at misinformation. To create something so absurd that it would sort of mirror the other conspiracies he saw being taken seriously.
Yeah.
Like how easily people seem to believe things.
Right. Using absurdity to highlight absurdity.
Exactly. He wanted to poke fun at something, which is our first language bit today.
Yeah.
Does to poke fun at something mean A, to gently make a joke about it, or B, to physically push it? We'll give the answer later.
Okay, got it. So he makes this joke sign, and then what?
And then? Well, the internet did what the internet does.
Which means...
It took the idea and ran with it.
Yeah.
Big time. Memes started popping up everywhere. Hashtag birds ain't real started trending. Websites were created.
And people started adding to the lore.
Oh, yeah. People began creating fake evidence. Things like fake government documents, really detailed diagrams showing the anatomy of these robotic birds. All completely made up, of course.
That's amazing. So did people actually buy it? Or was everyone in on the joke?
That's where it gets murky. Some people definitely got the satire. They saw it as like a commentary. But for others, it was harder to tell.
The line blurred.
Completely. It kind of evolved into this weird phenomenon that's part satire, part performance art, and part actual movement. Almost.
Performance art. What does that term mean? Is it A, a type of artistic expression done live, or B, a musical band? Another one for the end.
Good one. Yes, they got this live interactive element now.
Yeah.
They even sell merchandise, T-shirts, hats, stickers, and they hold rallies.
Rallies for birds aren't real. Seriously.
Seriously, people show up with signs, chant slogans. It's become this whole thing.
Wow. But do the people at the rallies really think pigeons are robots? Or is it still mostly a joke?
Well, that's the interesting part. If you ask many involved now, they'll say it's not really about literally believing birds are drones.
So what is it about then?
It's become almost an ironic way to express anxieties about the real world. You know, feelings about government surveillance, the weirdness of technology, the post-truth era. They use this completely over-the-top idea to talk about how strange things already feel.
So it's like using the ridiculous to point at things that actually feel unsettling.
Exactly. It's a way to process those feelings through absurdity and, well, humor.
Okay, that adds a whole other layer. But even if it's mostly satire or commentary, what kind of evidence do they, jokingly or otherwise, point to?
Right, the proof. Well, there are a few classic points that always come up. One you hear a lot is, have you ever seen a baby pigeon?
Oh, yeah, I have heard that one. The idea being
that since you only ever see adult-sized pigeons strutting around, they mustn't reproduce like normal birds. They must be, manufactured and deployed fully grown.
But there has to be a real reason we don't see baby pigeons, right? It can't just be that they're robots.
Of course. And the real reason is much less exciting. Pigeons nest in pretty hidden, out-of-the-way places.
Like where?
Think building ledges, under bridges, inside derelict buildings, maybe roof cavities. And the young, the squabs, they stay in the nest until they're almost adult-sized. So by the time you see them out and about, they look pretty much like the adults.
Ah, okay. That makes perfect sense. So not robots, just well-hidden babies. What's another piece of evidence?
The power lines one we mentioned earlier.
Right, the recharging theory.
Exactly. They claim the birds are sitting up there juicing up their batteries.
And the actual reason is just they're resting, taking a break.
Pretty much. Power lines are high up, relatively safe from ground predators, and offer a good vantage point. It's just a convenient place to perch.
Makes sense. Okay, and you also mentioned the droppings being liquid tracking devices. That one feels particularly absurd.
It really does. And it's often presented as, like, the ultimate proof of how insidious the surveillance is. Even their waste product is spying on us.
Liquid tracking devices. So a bird poops on your car and it's actually tagging you for the government.
That's the kind of idea, yeah.
Yeah.
It just pushes the whole concept into pure comedy, really. Nothing says advanced covert surveillance like, well, poo.
Definitely highlights the absurdity. Okay, so we've looked at the theory, its satirical origins, the way the internet kind of amplified it. Now let's think about why. Why does something so obviously, objectively untrue capture people's imagination, even as a joke? Why this joke?
That's, I think, the most fascinating part. Because clearly, even if people aren't true believers, this idea resonates somehow. It taps into something.
What do you think that something is? What are the reasons for its appeal?
Well, first off, I think it definitely plays on a genuine, widespread distrust of authority. And that feeling, which is very real for many people, that we are being watched constantly.
Especially now, with technology everywhere.
Exactly. So this theory just takes that feeling and dials it up to, like, 11. Makes it cartoonish almost. It's a way to engage with that anxiety, but from a safe, humorous distance.
Like looking at a scary thing through a funny lens, maybe.
Precisely. And second, related to that, it's just funny. It's inherently absurd. It gives people a lighthearted way to talk about how weird and complex modern life can feel sometimes. You laugh at the robot pigeons, but maybe there's a little nod to, yeah, things are kind of strange these days.
So humor is a coping mechanism, almost.
Could be. And third, as we discussed with its origins, it works brilliantly as parody. By being such a ridiculous conspiracy theory itself, it subtly highlights real issues.
Such as?
Such as genuine concerns about privacy, the role of tech companies, government surveillance, the spread of actual misinformation online. It uses this fake conspiracy to make you think about the real stuff.
Using the silly to point to the serious.
You got it. And maybe, just maybe, there's a fourth reason. A strange sort of comfort in having this outlandish explanation for things.
Comfort? How so?
Like, if your laptop crashes right before a deadline, instead of dealing with the boring reality of technical issues, you can jokingly blame it on a pigeon hacking your Wi-Fi.
Ha, okay, I see that. It's more fun, less stressful.
Exactly. It's absurd, but it deflects. So maybe the appeal of birds aren't real is partly that it lets us laugh at the absurdity of the world and maybe even laugh at ourselves for feeling overwhelmed by it sometimes.
Yeah.
Perhaps the best conspiracies are the ones that don't ask you to believe, just to, chuckle along.
That's a really interesting take. It's less about belief, more about social commentary and finding humor in modern anxieties.
I think so. It's a reminder that sometimes, embracing a bit of playful absurdity is a pretty good way to deal with actual absurdity.
Okay, before we wrap up, let's get the answers to those language questions. First one was to poke fun at something.
Right. That was A, to gently make a joke about it, or B, to physically push it. The answer is A, to gently make a joke about it. Like Peter McIndoe poking fun at conspiracy theories.
Got it. And the second one was, the internet did what the internet does. Options were A, it responded in a predictable, silly way, or B, it went offline.
And the answer there is A. It responded in a predictable, silly way, often meaning it amplified something, made memes, or had a strong, quick reaction.
Makes sense. And the last one, performance art. Was it A, a type of artistic expression done live, or B, a musical band?
That is a type of artistic expression done live. Think Marina Abramović, not Metallica. It often involves the artist's body or actions as the medium.
Perfect. Thanks for clearing those up.
No problem.
Well, this has been a surprisingly deep dive into something quite lighthearted. Birds aren't real. Who knew a joke could become all this?
It really is amazing, isn't it? Shows the power of satire, the internet, and collective imagination, I suppose.
Thank you so much for joining us on this weird and wonderful exploration. Definitely makes you look twice at the pigeons in the park.
My pleasure. And remember, if one of them seems to be staring extra hard, well, maybe just smile and wave. Or, check your Wi-Fi signal.
Until our next deep dive, everyone, keep questioning, keep laughing, and maybe keep looking up. But perhaps not too closely.
Indeed. See you next time.